Guys, I'm gonna be real. I'm a little intimidated. I don't know how I'm gonna say anything about this that hasn't already been said, but I'm gonna do my best. So here we go. Welcome to Reviewed in 5, where I rate movies in 5 categories: writing, directing, acting, originality, and entertainment. Today we're talking about One Battle After Another, the most recent film from Paul Thomas Anderson, who after 30 years in the business has finally released enough movies that I feel comfortable calling him a film director, and not Haim's on-call videographer. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio in the second most stoned performance of his career, and proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that white American film bros still have a chokehold on the discourse, whether you like it or not. Spoiler alert! I'm not pretending most of the people being recommended OBAA content in March 2026 haven't seen it already. If you truly have not, just stop and go watch it. I promise there's a lot to like here, no matter what side of politics you're on. Let's get into it. This movie's great. Everybody knows it. You've already heard a million reasons why, and all of them are true. So I don't think I'll do too much harm by allowing myself to channel Armand White for a second and talk about the bits I didn't like. Number 1, Bob. I take issue with Bob. One very specific, very significant issue. You know that classic dig people make about Raiders of the Lost Ark? About how you could take Indiana Jones out of the movie and all the baddies would still die at the end? Yeah, you could also say that about Bob. Except this example is actually more egregious, because in Indiana Jones, they pretty well set you up to expect how the climax will shake out. Whereas in this, you're deliberately set up to think that Leo might finally redeem himself by actually doing something of consequence, and then he just doesn't. Again, and sure, maybe the movie isn't really about him, and it's really about the passing of the torch from one generation to the next, but just make Willa the protagonist then. Following Bob the whole time just leaves you feeling hollow when he fails to contribute anything to the saving of his daughter. Also, rewatching this movie a couple times really opens your eyes to how ridiculous some of the dialogue is. Some of it's deliberate, like everything the Christmas adventurers say is obviously intended to be a joke, but anytime the military or the revolutionaries are speaking in code, it's like, this is word salad. This is filler and it has no meaning. You're really gonna tell me that this underground group of federally wanted individuals is identifying themselves to each other by quoting lyrics to one of the most well-known protest songs of the 70s? I could infiltrate the French 75 simply because I have seen Undercover Brother. Anyway, 4 out of 5. If you want to know why, look at anybody else's review. I gotta admire the restraint of Paul Thomas Anderson for taking $150 million of Warner Brothers money and not using it to stage this thing in 3 long takes. Because all jokes aside, this is a masterclass in editing, perfectly splitting the difference between something like There Will Be Blood, in which the average length of a shot is longer than this one's average length of a scene, and something like F1, which is a jump cut travesty of an editing nomination. Jesus Christ, it's a good thing I didn't have time to review that one. I would have blown an aorta. I have to shout out Andy Jurgensen for understanding the minimum amount of audio-visual information required to comprehend what's happening at any given time. There are entire complete scenes here that are composed of 2 3-second shots that still somehow tell you everything you need to know. This is something I also really admire about Oppenheimer and Christopher McQuarrie's Mission Impossible movies, but honestly, this might be the best example. So where'd all the money go? 1.5 million feet of VistaVision film, baby, for something that stylistically probably demanded an iPhone. As a producer myself who has had this fight with directors who insisted on shooting film, I feel confident in speculating that this movie would have been profitable if they shot it digitally. But to be fair, a good chunk of that money also went to California Union Cruise. So you know what? Maybe this guy's alright. 4 out of 5. Does Leonardo DiCaprio have a shtick? I feel like we're dangerously close to Leo having a shtick. Bro really got that Oscar and decided never to take himself seriously again. What's happened since then? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Don't Look Up, Killers of the Flower Moon, and now this. Variations on a theme of the awkward sub-80 IQ protagonist. But fortunately for this movie, the quality of these performances is generally tied to how funny he's allowed to be, and this one is topping the list for sure. Man, the Best Actor race this year is as wild as the Best Picture race from 2007, because usually the comedic performances are my favorite. And he's not even my 3rd pick this year. Anyway, who else? Is Teyana Taylor still considered the frontrunner for Best Supporting Actress? I never really understood that. Low-key, that feels like virtue signaling. I mean, she's impressive, but they basically kill her off after 20 minutes. If they had cut the Regina Hall character and instead had her come back to save her daughter, then I could see it. Would have made the third act juicier too. Just saying. I need to stop retroactively backseat writing the best movie of 2025. But in her defense, what is this weird online refrain I am just now discovering about her character being too horny? Like, sure, when Leo plays a stoned absentee father or Sean Penn plays a white supremacist, they get praised. But when Perfidia Beverly Hills chooses to weaponize her sexuality, men and women start coming out of the woodwork to call her a Jezebel? Like, maybe if all the black women in the movie were portrayed that way, I could see it. But they're not. It's a character. They're supposed to be flawed. Stop picking and choosing who you take out your sexual frustration on. I promise it's okay to just ask your friends to take new Hinge pics for you. I don't have anything else original to say here. Yes, I am pulling for Sean Penn for Best Supporting Actor. I know he doesn't need it. Probably doesn't even want it. But guys, imagine the speech.
You commie, homo-loving sons of guns.
5 out of 5. I take no questions. So half the time, I know this category just stands in for relevance rather than actual originality, which means I get to keep ranting about stupid backlash. This movie wants me to empathize with domestic terrorists. No. At risk of meeting this criticism where it's at, that interpretation is fucking ridiculous. Even if the protagonists of this movie are violent revolutionaries, so is Luke Skywalker, dumb fuck. Also, even if it's asking you to empathize with their family issues, it very definitively stops short of endorsing what they're doing. Because if you actually watch this for more than 5 minutes, it's pretty clear that the real reason these guys are blowing shit up is to get their rocks off. It's for kicks. 2, these guys are not terrorists. Terrorists kill civilians. These people don't even kill military combatants when they have the chance. The structures they target are uninhabited, and when shit goes south and someone does die, the movie calls it for what it is. A line has been crossed. They took it too far, and that is bad. The phone scene by itself pretty much puts the left-wing propaganda allegations in the ground. Or maybe the leftists are just the only ones capable of laughing at themselves. For God's sake, the villains of this movie are basically these guys from the Blues Brothers. That's the level of camp that we are at here. So if there's people out there who still avoid this for political reasons, I promise you, it calls out extremism on both sides for the goofy, pompous ego trip that it is. Give it a shot. It's one of the most likable movies of 2025. 5 out of 5. So a common praise of this movie is how breezy the pace feels despite the runtime. It doesn't feel like it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and people are right to praise that. But what I haven't heard is any attempt to actually figure out why it succeeds where other long movies fail. They just go back to listing other reasons why it's good. But I think I have the answer. And the answer is expectation. Movies happen in 3 acts. That storytelling convention has existed almost as long as feature film itself. When we watch a movie, we expect it to unfold that way. And despite how long this one is, it has one of the most clearly delineated 3-act structures I've ever seen. You got the first act setup montage, the big second act set piece, and the third act climax, with some little interludes to break them up. So even if it's your first time watching this, even if you don't know exactly how the plot will resolve, you do subconsciously understand at all times what part of the story you're in. And yes, jokes, action, and fast-paced editing do help, but on a deeper level, the movie takes you by the hand and guides you through. It never leaves you to wonder where any of this is going. And I think that's a big lesson that aspiring filmmakers can learn about why this one works as well as it does. 5 out of 5. Let's go ahead and add it up. Score about to be as high as Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie. And that'll be 4.6. What a damn good movie this is. And after this weekend, the Oscars are over, and I can stop catching up and start actually seeing new movies again. So next Thursday, March 19th, I'm seeing Project Hail Mary, 7 p.m., AMC Burbank 16. Looking forward to it. Subscribe for the review, follow me on Instagram for updates, and regardless, I'll see you next week. Peace out, Beverly Hillbillies and Hooterville Junction.